We're live, Ronnie. We're live.
Well, you're only just alive, aren't you? Because
only just alive,
you've had a terrible day, haven't you? And today, Roger.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've had a terrible day. So essentially, that means that we're kind of going to cancel this and come back because Stacey can't make it, right?
Yeah. What happened was, this is quite a funny story, really. It's probably not really funny for you, is it? But Roger drove his car onto a beach.
His van
onto a beach, and he sank. He sank into the beach.
Yeah,
and the AA wouldn't help. The fire brigade wouldn't help. So what actually happened in the end, Roger? How did you get out of the beach?
Yeah, the first thing was I contacted the AA, and they said that they were worried about their vehicle sinking as well, so they wouldn't come out. And they said you better contact the emergency services, which I did. And they were a bit funny as well, weren't they? Because
just like no one wants to help us.
Yeah, they were kind of going, what service do you require? And I said, well, we're stuck in sand, so I'm not quite sure. Hello to the world.
Like where do I look?
What service do you require? You should have said beach. I need the beach rescue.
Yeah, and so they said, police, ambulance, fire brigade, or coast guard. And I said, well, we're stuck in the sand, so I suppose it's a fire brigade. And she goes, do you want police, ambulance? And so she wouldn't give us any advice.
Oh no! Tell them about the AA. They were asking all like the COVID questions.
Yeah,
a big list of COVID questions.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
another thing. Yeah, they asked about COVID.
This is the AA.
Have you had COVID? I said, well, I've just had a test, actually, funny enough, and it was negative. And said, do you have any passengers? Yes. Have they had COVID? No. Have you left Ireland in the last 3 days? No. And we went through all this checklist, right? And then they said, and by the way, we can't come and help you anyway.
See, but by the time they finished that, you could have completely sank, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Why did you ignore the quicksand warning signs, though, Roger?
Because I can't read. No, it's.
So anyway, what happened in the end? How did you get out?
Yeah, well, it's a favourite place for those guys who have those sailboard things, with the big, so they do so it's actually fascinating watching them do, because they jump into the air, and they can do all these spins and all that. And so they said, look, vehicles are getting stuck here every day, so we'll get you out. Don't worry about it.
Every hour?
Once every hour.
Every hour.
Yeah. So what happened then was we decided to wait, and this guy said, well, I've got a tow rope, so we'll wait for the gang to come back, as it were. But that was going to be 2 hours. That's why we cancelled with you, Ronnie.
Yeah.
And they said it was 2 hours. And then the guy came over with just his van, and he said, let's give it a go, right? And so it didn't work first time. Then there's another couple of guys, and Jennifer got behind and pushed.
Yeah.
And so he kind of said, you've got to think about the sand like flour. He said, if you roll onto it, it'll compact it and make it hard. So he was rolling his car to give him some purchase kind of thing. And then he just took off and kind of just yanked.
Yeah, it was so great. Yeah,
and so great. About three of those, and then we were free.
And it was out. Brilliant. Yeah, it reminds me once we were sabbing a hunt once. I mean, this is quite a few years ago. In my van, I had an old Morris van, ex-post office van, and we were sabbing the hunt, and we got stuck in the mud. And this farmer come along, and he said, "Oh, worry, it's tractor." And we had to pretend we were hunt supporters, because he was hunt supporters. So we said, "Oh, we're following the hunt and we're stuck."
Yeah, we were thinking about farmers.
We were nearly thinking of asking a farmer about tractor.
Yeah, farmer. And anyway, if we said if we'd said we were sabs, he'd probably have pushed us more into the mud. So we said, "Oh, we're following the hunt." He said, "Oh, yes, they're a good hunt," and he started talking all about the hunt and that. And we didn't say anything. We just let him put us out, So yeah, but I'm glad you got out. But what's actually happened is
just to explain to people who are signing in. We this is the advert. We're kind of cancelling it because I sank in the sand.
Yeah, because we got stuck in the sand on the beach just 2 hours ago. Yeah. This is a news bulletin.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hello, welcome to 61 News.
When I told Louise, she said you should have found a room.
A room?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We've got a room here.
Yeah, no, yeah. She said, "What would caused it? What actually caused the car to sink?" We won't go into that.
Oh, you see, yeah.
So I never thought of that.
How would you get that?
Yeah, because I'm clean-minded.
Say something Dublin.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it, yeah. I'm clean-minded, so I never thought of that. See.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Oh my god.
So anyway, yeah. So what happened was because we cancelled it meant that Stacey from the sanctuary she decided to go and take all her loads of dogs for a walk. You see, so she's not around to take part in the advert, and we kind of really need her in the advert because we want her to talk a little bit about some of the animals. So, but we can. Oh, there's Bernie. Everyone's here, and
She's not on later, no? Like, I wonder could she log in later?
I'm just going through this just to show that we've got a bit of an audience. So
yeah, there's a few. We've got five people.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. So what we'll have to do is rearrange for a time when Stacey can make it, and then we'll hopefully over the next couple of days, couple of evenings, and then we'll do the proper one because it'd be good to have like. I mean, we've got videos and photos of the animals.
So this is. I won't play this, but this is the thing that we're going to start with during the thing. But so this is it's garden sanctuary, isn't it? And so.
It's the garden sanctuary, yeah. There's lots of
guinea pigs, and then
they've got small. It's a smaller. It's a local sanctuary, and it's for smaller animals. And I mean, they have got farmed animals in the sense of chickens and ducks, I think, and turkeys. They've got the smaller ones. I think what they do as well is if they get anything kind of larger. That comes to them in a kind of emergency, they'll kind of maybe look after that animal overnight, and then the animal will be taken to a sanctuary that actually can, one that homes the larger animals. So they act as a kind of sort of holding place as well. But I mean, when we have Stacey on, hopefully, as I said, over the next couple of days, we can rearrange it, and she can talk a little bit more about the sanctuary. It's just a shame that about you sinking on the beach, Roger.
Yeah, no, I got a sinking feeling. I did.
It's lucky you were in the car, isn't it? Otherwise, you might have been completely. It's lucky you were in the car because you might just.
I was actually in the car when I was saying
It's mad, crazy. Anyway, as long as you're all right. That's the main thing, because we were thinking you might have to pay hundreds of pounds to someone to come with a crane or something. That's what. Do
you think you're going to be? Are you going to be empty of stories by the end of this one? Do you think, or do you think you've got?
No, I think there's quite likely to be another one.
All right.
Because you see, at the moment,
after that, I was thinking after that we could do a last one where we can do an update on all the sanctuaries that we've featured. That'd be quite good. For example, there's some
that'd be nice.
That we didn't cover and stuff like that. And so,
it'd be good if we could get. If we could get a person, because of course it was a shame we didn't have anyone from when we did the first one. I think we probably just didn't think of having someone from the sanctuary on that, and it would have been good if we, like Diana from the.
We can have 6 people on screen with my little stuff, so we could maybe get everybody together and
maybe if they can make it, the people from the different sanctuaries. I mean, it's to have that many people all do it all at the same time might be difficult to organise for everyone, because of course they're very busy people with the animals and everything. But
Yeah,
we could get a few, and we could talk.
We've got a late comer, Ronnie. So do you want to explain once more time what's happening? Yeah.
Well, what's happened is this is kind of we're just having a chat now because yeah, we're just having a chat now. We were going to do the advert, but what we're going to do is we're going to rearrange the advert for another evening very soon, hopefully over the next couple of evenings. Because come on, pass me some. Pass some across to me. Some of that.
Pass it
across the screen. There we are. Yeah, it's that way, isn't it? It's that. I always get this wrong with the hands.
Me and Jeremy did that with a phone skit one time. We were passing phones.
You can do it if you remember what side it is. I always get confused. So I think it's a mirror, but it's not a mirror. It's the other way. So, what happened was Roger and Jennifer decided to go to the seaside, and they drove their car or their van on a beach, and it sunk in the sand. You see, and they thought they were going to be like stuck there for ages. So what happened was the show got cancelled, which meant that Stacey thought it was cancelled, so she's gone off and taken like they got loads of dogs, and she's gone off to take them for a walk. So then Roger got out of the sand quicker than he thought he would, and we tried to kind of do it, but because Stacey's not around, we decided
it must have been quicksand, Ronnie.
Quicksand, yeah. But,
they got out quicker than I thought.
Is there such a thing as slow sand? Because there's quicksand, and is there slow sand?
No idea.
Actually, it would be.
It's funny because these kind of surfer people, they said first of all, a woman came over and said, "Oh, this happens to about 4 of us every time, so don't worry, we'll get you out." Then this guy came over and he goes, "Oh, this happens about once every hour." So they were really quite confident that they will get us out. It was just a question of waiting for enough people to be there to do it, you know.
Yeah.
And then because the guy said, "Well, you've actually driven into exactly the wrong part of the beach, because there's actually a car park on the beach and it's all marked out. It's just the middle part of it is all soft and squidgy, and that's the bit you're supposed to avoid." And I didn't know, because
they haven't got a thing. They should have a warning thing there, shouldn't they? Say don't park here.
You ought to have a big sign saying. But he said the actual squidgy bit actually moves around because it gets blown. See, essentially, what you've got to do is you've got to dig down until you're at the hard sand, which is down below. But I mean, the actual back axle was on the sand; it had gone that low. So so I was thinking we might do some suspension damage here if we're not careful. But I think we got away with it. And like I say, the guy knew his stuff, because he said, "Look, I'll come forward," and then he came back and forward a few times, in order to compact the sand to give him some grip. And then he kind of just went forward, and rather than try and tow me out, he kind of jerked the van out.
Yeah. So at least you're out. That's the main thing, because of course, you know, I thought you might be, you know, completely disappear. I didn't know. You said I'm sunken in the sand. I thought, you know, is this the last message I'm gonna ever get from Roger? You know.
Yeah. Don't worry. I wouldn't waste your time from you, Ronnie.
He won't send it to me. No. I thought, oh, that's nice. He sent me his last message. You know.
Yeah. Kind of. And you could have done that and brought the flag down and all the rest of it.
I could have done, yeah.
I suppose we have to just go now.
We better go, but as long as people know that we are going to, we're going to do the proper one. I mean, hopefully, I'm hoping we might be able to do it over the weekend, but we just have to see.
When's the actual show?
The show is Thursday. The show's Thursday on next Thursday evening. So it's 6 days.
13th of May. I've actually got it in my diary. Look.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, I mean, we're hoping to do the advert a bit earlier this time too, because we normally do it on the Monday, but we're hoping to do it a bit earlier this time, weren't we? So that we could have longer to share it and everything. But so hopefully we can do it over.
It was your fault that I sank in the sand doing that, Ronnie. If it kept it the normal routine, it would never happen.
You wouldn't have gone to the beach that day.
No, that's right.
Yeah. But anyway, so well, hopefully, but you know, people that follow you. Obviously, there are people here that follow your channel for some mad reason, Roger, isn't there?
Yes.
No.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
We're just explaining that I've only just been pulled out of sand. My vehicle sank in some sand about 2 hours ago, so we didn't think we'd be able to make it. So we cancelled the advert, and so we're kind of just coming on just to cancel because I managed to get out.
Just coming on to explain people.
To
people
that
it's cancelled. And we're going to do a proper one because Stacey, when we cancelled it, obviously Stacey from the who runs the sanctuary, the garden sanctuary that we're doing this Jailhouse Vegans for next Thursday evening. She because she thought the show was cancelled, she's gone off and taken all their loads of dogs for a walk, so she's not able to take part. And really, we need her for the advert because we wanted her to just talk about just a few of the animals there and stuff. So we're going to rearrange the advert, and then obviously people that follow Roger's channel will know when that's on, and hopefully that will be over sometime over the next couple of days.
Yeah, you were the last guest panelist on the show, weren't you? Because on
the animal right. Yeah, on the Animal Rights Show. Yeah,
but
we've
got Christoph Dont on Monday, a psychologist.
Who have you got Monday? Sorry,
Christoph Dont. He's a psychologist, but based in Kent. Done some really interesting research. His research suggests that people with a right-wing bent tend to be more. They eat more meat, and they've got kind of worse attitude towards other animals. I don't think it really need a psychologist to work that out, would it? I know you say that.
Was he paid like thousands and thousands of pounds to come to that conclusion? Or
I'll tell you one thing. with regard to the last show, I was very disappointed because remember this. We made this ticker for the last Animal Rights Show, and we didn't get anybody working out that it was a joke, did we? Which is weird because. I had the Animal Rights Show does not promote illegal activities, and you said, or offers financial advice, like all that James Aspey stuff. So I put that in, and nobody seemed to notice. So a joke waste.
I'd have thought people, who were joining for financial advice would probably have been disappointed, wouldn't they, when they saw that?
All the time.
And you want to put parking advice now on there as well, now, Roger.
Yeah, I can give people poverty. I used to teach the sociology of poverty, and it was so ironic because sometimes all the students were overseas students, so they were quite well off to actually get over in the first place. And I realized that I was the one mostly in poverty, and I was giving the class.
And they were richer than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that nearly everyone's richer than me. No, but there we are.
I've got a funny attitude towards money because I don't really care about it. I never have really, to be honest. But
no, nor me. Do you know? I think I've only worked 8 years of my life. I worked out how long I'd worked, and it was only 8 years.
You mean
like in normal work, normal work.
You got that wrong a bit. You see, I mean, you do a lot of work. It's just you're talking about having a job.
I'm talking about having an official job.
I remember my brother. I was on the dole, and we were campaigning and all that. And he was working for British Steel at the time, and he said, "Well, look, you haven't got a job. I've got a job, but you do more work than I do." He kind of recognised that we did. Yeah,
there is a difference. Yeah. Of course. I mean, when Louise and I were running the Greyhound Action, the campaign against the ground racing industry, I used to work about 80 hours a week on that. Yeah. There was just so much in the end. There was just so much interest in it at the end that I spent about 80 hours a week on it. It's like huge, and that's like you could argue that's much more meaningful work than somebody just going and to produce some useless product or someone working in a useless enterprise.
Like I was in 1975, I was running a twin cinema in Kirby, Liverpool, right? And it was a split off from Ladbrokes called J&A, and I was the chief projectionist, and my wages were £25 a week. and my take home was 19 quid.
Yeah,
But we worked out, because I was the chief and all that. Worked out I was doing like 90 hours a week.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah.
No,
Talking about working for the man.
Yeah. It's not my first job. I got was £5 a week. It's working in the solicitor's office, just as I was a clerk, but I was just a general, just had to do any kind of job that no one else wanted to do.
When you got your first job, they didn't even have money in those days, Ronnie. She said to me.
Well, they didn't have money.
Yeah.
They did. I got paid.
For 1 year.
There were pieces of 8 and guineas and things in those days.
It used to be when you could be long-term unemployed, people used to do that on purpose because
Dave's only worked for 1 year. Look at that. That's brilliant. He's only worked for 1 year. You can beat that.
Well,
that's true, isn't it?
People should be contemptuous about passionate about compassion, which is completely true. But we were talking about a year ago, probably at the beginning of the lockdown and all that. I was talking to Ronnie. We were planning something online, and we kind of worked out that with all the kind of famous kind of vegans now, we never thought about becoming famous. In fact, quite reverse. No. We did a lot to hide our identities, right? And we never thought about using the money to make money. It just never crossed our minds, did it? Just never did.
No, not in any way did we think that we could use animal rights as a career, or veganism as any kind of career. That never occurred to me that I somehow get a job in this.
I said there are two lots of people. Some people see a problem and they think this is my cause, and other people see the same problem and they think this is my career. And I've always been a little bit wary of careerists, and I know that I get a lot of flack from that because nothing wrong with wages, and I agree with that in principle to some degree. Although ironically, the more wages you get, the more taxes you pay, and at the moment that means the more money is going into. I mean, what did they do? They announced 30 million quid in your country, England, Ronnie, to go to Porton Down for future.
They put like subsidies into those things. So I remember once I was.
But that's going to be taxpayers' money, though, Ronnie.
Of course it is. Yeah, all taxpayers. Because once I refused to pay. At the time, it was to do with I think it's a road tax on your car. I think that was what it was, and I didn't tax my car, you see, and I got this summons and all that. And I was actually in prison when it came through. Oh, you've got summons and all that, and what's the reason why you didn't pay the tax? And I wrote, when I wrote back to the court, it was all that. I'm not going to pay tax because it will go towards weapons and it will go to. I mean, I don't know. The road tax probably goes towards the roads, but it was tax anyway. And I wrote all this letter, and they actually let me off. But they might let me off because I was in prison already. Of course, they thought there's no point doing anything to this guy. But I wrote this big long letter explaining why I didn't want to pay the road tax because, I mean, now you can't get out of it as easily as that. To be honest, now. Take your car away and all sorts these days.
It's the same as the you can't be long-term unemployed anymore, really, without getting a lot of hassles. I understand all that, so it's not really a strategy anymore, I don't suppose. But even so, I used to say, well, look, what I would do if I got wages from the movement, or even expenses and everything, I'd work all the hours under the sun and take as little as possible.
Absolutely.
This goes back to when I was the BUAV committee member, because we used to do stalls in Liverpool. We're talking about 1982 now. Did stalls in Liverpool, and this little old woman who must be dead by now. She used to come up and she would give us a quid out of her pension. And then she'd come back a few weeks later and she goes, "Oh, this is still happening. Isn't it terrible?" and all that. And when I went down to the BUAV, which is once a month, I think it cost me about £12.50, I think, altogether. And I was so guilty about getting, even though that they reimbursed me because it was a coach fare. I wouldn't go on the train because the train was more expensive than the coach. But I felt so guilty about it. I was thinking, I'm spending the animal's money here, and I know that's a kind of silly way of looking at it in some ways. At the same time, I always felt guilty, So
I think it's a thing to bear in mind. I think it's okay. I think especially these days, I think it's okay for people to be employed to campaign for animals, but it kind of depends on what they get. If those people are being paid like an exorbitant amount, then that's obviously not right.
Hello.
Oh yeah,
Hello,
TV star. Hello, Danny.
So Danny's just. So again, this is supposed to be the advert. We're kind of cancelling it because Stacey's not here. The reason we're cancelling it is because we went down. We went down.
Yes, actually, because like I was saying about going to the drive-on part, whereas he was saying like to
go onto the road bit.
Kind of was my.
So it's Jennifer's fault that you sank in the sea.
Yeah, it's not all my fault now. Yeah.
Totally your fault, 100%.
It looks so funny because it's like.
But you see, this is we're supposed to be cancelling this thing, but like so far we've taken nearly half an hour to cancel.
We normally do.
But talking about being paid for stuff, I remember when I was ALF press officer, I had to go down to somewhere I think it was somewhere southeast London way, to do an interview because there'd been a raid down there, and it was they wanted to do an interview with me for the local news program. You see, and this guy was sort of saying, "How do you justify this?" and all that. He was being, trying to be clever, the interviewer. And I explained, why people had done what they did. I think it may have been an attack on a laboratory, probably was. And then he thought he'd be extra clever, and he said, "Now, Mr. Lee," he said, "how much do you get paid by the Animal Liberation Front for doing this press office stuff?" See, and I said, "Oh well, no, they don't. No, I don't get paid by the Animal Liberation Front." I said, "I get paid by the government. Actually, I get paid by the government." He says, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm on the dole." I said, "I'm on the dole, so I get, the government pay me." And I said, "So they should pay me." I said, "It's quite right, they should pay me, because they put all this money, subsidies into, into animals being oppressed, into animal experimentation and farming, animal farming and all that." I said, "It's quite right, they should pay me." I said, "So yes, I'm paid by the government." And he didn't know what to say. He was completely gobsmacked by it. Which I thought was brilliant. He thought he was being clever, asking me how much I was paid by the ALF.
In Dublin coming up, and they kind of ask you that question. And there's one guy in particular who's pretty nasty. He always comes up and he insists that we get paid. And it doesn't matter what you say to him, you can't convince him that we're not. And I think sometimes it's a little bit like some of the cons, that they couldn't believe it when I told them that we weren't paid for doing ALF stuff. And it's kind of because they wouldn't ever do anything without getting paid.
No.
So they can't
I think that's
people.
right. Because the hunt in the hunt service, the hunt used to accuse us of being paid by the Kremlin.
Yeah.
They go, "You're paid by the Kremlin. Like the Kremlin are going to pay people
we used
in this country."
The Essex hunt used to say that to us, and we used to say now, and they also used to have this weird thing that the Kremlin told you where the hunt was, and they gave you some sandwiches, and they gave you some money. And so we said, yeah, well, on a Thursday, every Thursday, this postcard arrives telling us where you are, and we don't know where it's from, but all the R's are backwards. We said,
yeah.
They kind of believed it. It's bizarre.
But there was one that said to me, he said, "I know," he said, "You're paid by the Kremlin, you're paid by the Kremlin." I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "No, it's not." I said, my money comes straight from Peking.
Michael pointed out that it's taken a long time to cancel this thing.
Yeah. It's all an age, isn't it?
I know. We better go. And Danny says, what did Danny say? "If I'm doing something for animal rights and I take a day off, I get compensated, not paid." Oh, okay. Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, that's good. Right, well, we better go, and obviously people will keep an eye on Roger's channel, and you see when we're going to do the real one.
Yeah, we'll do the real one, the real thing, folks. So sorry about that. If you were dying to see some cute pictures of other animals, but you have to look at our ugly mugs instead. So
Oh my God, what's real?
But it will be worth, the real advert will be worth it when we do it, won't it?
I doubt it, Ronnie. But there you go.
Unless you go, no driving on any beaches.
No,
between now and then.
I'm going to be beach free until this program. Right, people.
Bye.
We'll
Take
see
care,
you.
everyone. Bye. Bye.